Leadership isn't just about holding a title, it's about driving momentum, inspiring action, and making sure no one gets left behind in the process. Welcome to Masters of Momentum, where we sit down with trailblazers, change makers, and leaders who aren't just talking about the future, they're building it. I am your host, Sharika Himes.
And I'm your co-host, Roquita Coleman-Williams. Today, we're diving into the topic that every city wrestles with, post-election recovery and resilience.
Elections bring change, but what happens after the votes are counted? How does a leader step in, unify a city, and create real impact in a landscape shaped by history, power, and progress? Our guest today is no stranger to that challenge. As the mayor of Memphis, he's stepping into a leadership role that is pivotal at this moment, leading a city where the majority of residents are African Americans, yet much of the power and economic influence is concentrated in the hands of a select few. How does he plan to drive economic success, advocate for the vulnerable, and ensure that progress is both bold and inclusive? Let's get into it. Welcome, Mayor Young. How are you?
I'm great.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for having
being
me. Glad to be here with you all and love what you guys are doing. Proud to be on the platform with you.
Thank you so much. We are on location today in the beautiful City Hall in
City Hall,
downtown City, Memphis.
welcome.
Thank you for having us. We're so
Glad to have you.
excited. Now, listen, every election is a whirlwind, and we certainly just came off one. How have you personally been recharging and refocusing after all of that?
Well, I've tried to stay focused. I've been in office for a year now, a year and a month or so. And, we came in at a time when we had a lot of challenges around public safety. There's a lot of concern around the community wanting to see more growth and development and blight remediation. And so my goal is to keep us focused on the things that we want to overcome. Thankfully, for our first year, we've made some progress. I like to remind people that we're not doing victory laps. We don't think that we have achieved our goal, but we're seeing crime trend in a better direction. Crime is down about 13% overall citywide, and some will say, well, that's the national trend. But I remind people that we defied the national trends for a couple of years where we were continuing to increase when crime was declining elsewhere. So, we're keeping our focus on that. We know that the ultimate thing that's going to reduce crime and make our community better is going to be getting more money in people's hands. And so development and economic development is really important, trying to make sure we're bringing jobs to this city that are going to allow us to finally overcome this anchor of poverty that's been around our neck for far too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I've repeatedly heard about your lived principles and your stated principles is that leadership is about momentum. You just said it. We're not taking victory laps. Leadership is really about momentum. So as you step into this current space, what's the word that best describes your vision for the city's future? And tell us why.
Elevation. Elevation. I think we need to elevate on all levels. And I don't just mean it in terms of the brand of Memphis, although that is one thing, but I mean the lives of Memphians. I think that the quality of life has to be elevated. I think that incomes in our community have to be elevated. The pride in our community has to be elevated. And everything that we're doing, I believe, is leading us towards that goal. And, as a leader and as mayor, you take so much criticism that you have to not internalize and use that criticism to make you better. I always hear Charlemagne, he has, on iHeart, when he's on his show, he would always say, you're never as good as anyone says you are, and you're never as bad as somebody says you are.
Yeah.
So stay focused on the goal. And, just like we did in the first year, I didn't know if the things we were doing were going to truly get us to the goal, but we felt like it was data informed and that it could make a difference. And we look back a year from where we started and we had made progress.
That's right.
And my hope is that year over year, we continue to make progress, both on the public safety front, but truly on the economic development front. And elevation is really the term that defines it all.
I love that. Well, speaking of economic development, cities thrive when their economies are strong. We all know that. What strategies do you see as game changers for ensuring economic success in our communities, especially for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and working families?
I think it's about, when we say economic development, it's kind of a loaded term because what are the things that you're doing to develop that economy? I think it happens from a built environment perspective, our zoning and our planning. We got to make it easy for people to want to do business here, to
Yeah.
develop and build here. We have to find resources for our small businesses that currently exist. How can they access small business loans and capital that's so necessary? And so we use our economic development growth engine to help incentivize those businesses to continue to thrive. And then another concept that I think is really important that I would love for us to lean in more on is really economic empowerment, which is different than economic development. It's
Okay.
empowering those businesses that already exist. And I love the program that has been put in place by Olivet Church. They had a program that they started it as Bust a Move Monday. And they rebranded the name, but the mission is still the same. And what they would do as a church is they would identify a small business in Orange Mound, which is where they were founded, and they would flood that business with business on one Monday per month.
Wow.
Then they expanded it to 1 week per month. That select business, all of their parishioners would go there. It would help that small business learn how to take on larger crowds and be able to process people through the audience, through their doors, but it also allowed them to enhance their revenues. And they have a track record now, and they can show you that these small businesses will tell you this was one of the best weeks they've ever had. And so one of the things that we're looking to do is partner with them to expand that citywide. We started what we call a peace movement. And we started the peace movement where we're engaging churches all throughout this city. And we started with a program called Own Your Block, where we had churches that were going out and they were owning the area around their facility and cleaning up and things of that nature. We had a citywide cleanup with 45 churches that participated. The next phase is economic empowerment, where we want those same churches and more, and churches, synagogues, whatever religion you are, we want you to identify a small business in our community, and we want you to flood that business with business for 1 week per month. If we have all of our churches doing that, imagine how much stronger our economy will be and how much stronger our small business sector will be.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That is powerful. Now, if we gave you a magic wand to fix one economic challenge overnight, what would it be? And what steps have you already taken towards that?
I mean, I think obviously it would be poverty. I mean, that's the biggest challenge, but that's just so big that it's hard to pick that one. I think I would say access to capital. Access to capital is really the challenge. We have some amazing people with amazing ideas and figuring out how to get it over the hump. Figuring out how to take a small business with a great idea. Many of our small businesses only have one employee.
Yeah.
And if we could get those small businesses to add 5, that would be a dramatic shift in our economy. And so what we've done to try to facilitate that is we work with our Office of Business Diversity and Compliance to support those businesses when they want to come in and get resources. We direct them to our other partners like Mid-South Minority Business Council, MMBC, all of the teams that are working to help these early stage businesses navigate their way to the resources they need, because it's easy to say give them capital, but it's harder to get them positioned to receive the capital, because oftentimes as a small business, you don't necessarily know all of the steps that it's going to take to actually access that money. And so our teams are working with them to make sure that they have all of the things they need to really learn how to really get to that money.
Really impactful. And I will tell you, Mary Young, I am very excited about that programming. When I started my business, I went straight to OBDC to get certifications because, number one, I wanted to be connected. I wanted to do business at the government level. But it was really impactful. And then also, we were so fortunate to have folks like River City Capital and Edge and other folks that are part of our ecosystem, which makes Memphis unique. And I just wanted to say it's a great program. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And I would just add that, even with our Office of Business Diversity and Compliance, it's about doing business with the city, but it's also positioning yourself so that you can do business with the major corporations that are here in our city. And there's only so much business that the city of Memphis is going to be able to create for small businesses. We are one option, but the way that we truly take our city to another level and take our small business to another level is get our larger companies also participating in those initiatives. And so we consistently have those dialogues through the chamber, which is a great partner to us on it, and our major corporations, which are also moving in that direction.
Okay, awesome.
Well, when we think about building a robust city, elevating the city, then you can't avoid the conversation of how do you advocate for the vulnerable and the marginalized. So people talk about resilience in policy, but it's also a personality trait. What has shaped some of your own resilience as a leader, and how do you want to pass that spirit on to the next generation of community builders?
Yeah, I think what has shaped me has just been my lived experience growing up in this city. Coming up and having parents that have worked in the ministry and been preachers and their heart for the residents of this community, I think that has been passed on to me. And for many years, I had people that would say, when are you going to start preaching? That's always the question when you're a preacher's kid. But what I had come to realize is that my ministry is this. Like my public service is my ministry. And I think it's really kind of embedded in me that everything that I do has to be for the benefit of other people. It's not enough for me and my family to be comfortable. I feel a need to take our community to a different place, and I want all of our residents to have that opportunity. And so when it comes to what's been poured into me, my goal is to keep doing the work at all levels. One of the things about this job is I mentioned criticism, you get comments and feedback from everybody. And people are passionate about the thing that they're passionate about. And they want that to be the thing that I'm deeply focused on. And in many instances I am, but I can't be a one-trick pony. I have to focus on all the things and make sure that we're doing a range of things that are going to touch people at many different levels and meet them where they are. And so I think my hope is that my passion for the work, my consistent presence, because just being there makes a difference, helps to engage more people and get them excited about where we can take our city.
Absolutely.
I genuinely respect the fact that you regard the work that you do as ministry.
It is.
And as a part of your ministry, and that as a result of your lived experience, you're now modeling what that might look like to deeply care for a community, but to lead through a community through very difficult and challenging circumstances.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I always tell people, I said it when I was on the campaign trail, like, I didn't want this job because it's just a political job. I don't want to be a lifelong politician. People say, quit saying that. Like, you got to quit saying it because you don't know what's going to happen after it. I don't know, and I'm not ruling out anything. But I didn't do this because I want to keep going higher in politics. I really saw this job as the best job to be able to move Memphis in the direction that I believe it should go. So I really do feel like it is a calling, and I'm privileged to have the opportunity.
Yeah, and you treat it as such. I will tell you that I was going to say this towards the end, but this is the perfect time for me to say it. Oftentimes when I vote for people, I have high hopes that they're going to execute on the things that they talk about on the campaign trail. I have been much harder on you because I know you.
Right.
And so I'm watching with a much more critical eye. I have been pleasantly not surprised, but pleasantly informed with the fact that you are remaining authentic to who you are. You were successful in your career in corporate America, and you were well sought after by other cities. But I was so impressed. I remember when you went to New York to continue your training, and you lived hard because New York is much more expensive than Memphis, and we would laugh about that.
It was a tough life up there. Had to get back to my southern comfort.
I know. Listen, cost of living is cheaper here, y'all. Come on down.
Come on down.
But you went and you did that because you wanted to be better prepared and educated around urban planning and how to actually run a large metropolitan city. I've watched you come back and apply all the things that made you successful in corporate America, that made you successful in your career, and bring that to the city of Memphis. So it was a choice for you to become a public servant. You weren't looking for a job. You may have even taken a pay cut. So I just want to say thank you for doing this, and thank you for loving the city in the people enough to want to stay here and make it better. Now, we have our unique power dynamics, as every city does.
Right.
How do you navigate partnerships with the city's most influential people and those partnerships and players while ensuring that leadership is inclusive and representative of the people?
Well, for me, it actually feels natural to me because I have always felt like I can be in any room, like in any room and still remain who I am. And I think that, having my voice at the table, regardless of whether I'm with top CEOs in the city or in the nation, or sitting on the porch in South Memphis with residents from the community, that I can continue to be authentically who I am. And I think that's something that Memphis has uniquely prepared us for, because the way we live in our city is across a range of socioeconomic dynamics.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important that the leader of the community has the ability to speak with everyone and still be authentic to who they are and what they firmly believe the city needs, whether I'm at the state capitol with Republicans or whether I'm with Democrats. To me, the issues that affect our city aren't really partisan. It's people need resources.
Yeah.
People need help. And they don't care if a Republican or Democrat gave them the help. They just want the help. They want the resources. And I think it's my job and responsibility to be able to go in any of those rooms and advocate for them and, communicate the messages in a way that are people-centric, because that's what helps to alleviate a lot of the politics. When you start talking about people and stories, that resonates with everybody. And if you listen to speeches and things that I give, I always try to get off the script, because if I write it down, it's going to start sounding government-y, because that's where I come from.
Exactly.
But if I go off the script and just start telling my heart and start speaking about stories, like that has been what has worked for me in all of the rooms that I've been in.
Very good. Awesome. Well, cities are built on relationships, right? And you've talked about the relationships. What's one unexpected or unconventional partnership you'd love to create that could transform the city's trajectory?
I think it's one that we kind of started last year, where, there was a news story about Mayor Young meets with gang members.
Yes, love that story.
That was an interesting story and dynamic, and I won't tell the whole story, but the thing that I thought was so compelling about the conversation, and we did it multiple times, in each conversation it was the same, is how regular and natural and normal it was. My ask in the conversation, it was not a negotiation. It was a conversation like, what will it take for us to not be shooting and killing each other? What can I do as mayor? And one of the things they said, I won't say all, but one of the things they said that really made me feel convicted was they said, well, if you want us to go tell these young guys, I think you're missing the point. We think you need to come tell them yourself, because we don't see people like you in our hood. And when they said that, it's like it clicked. It's like, I got to do more of this. I have to have more conversations with young people that are on a different path, because my story, the stories of people around me, can resonate with them and potentially get them to make another choice. And I think that we need partnerships with those young. It doesn't have to always be me as the person, but we need people with lived experiences that can connect with them in a real way to potentially get them to make a different choice, choices that they may not have even known were options.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm deeply passionate about trying to find a path to get more of that done in our city.
Well, you talk about headlines. It's 4 years from now. What would you like to see as the headline?
Memphis, fastest growing city with the most equity.
Oh, okay.
With the most. You got to have a caveat at the end, because I don't want us to just grow for the sake of growing. I want us to grow and the people of our city grow with us. That when we look at neighborhoods that have low population, that have a lot of vacancy, that we see those vacancies filled up with people and spaces, and that the people who were there during the low years are able to be there during the up years. And I think that is something that would be amazing for our city, and is well deserved. For far too long, we've been the city with promise.
Yeah.
They always say we have potential. I'm ready for us to start realizing that potential. And I think it's going to take hard work. It's not something that happens overnight, but I truly believe that this is our moment and that the stars are aligning for us to do something special.
I
See
agree.
evidence of elevation.
To see evidence of elevation.
So, as you know, I am the Associate Dean of the MACE program, the Memphis Academy of Civic Engagement.
Which we appreciate.
And I appreciate you really seeing value in a program like that. The reason I bring that up is because Wednesday night, we were talking about your city's team working for you, session 2. And Chief Antonio Adams, who's your COO,
Yeah.
was there. And I will tell you, he also has the same servant leadership mindset and heart about the people and doing what's right because it's the right thing to do, not because it's always easy, as you know. One of the things that came out of that conversation was one of the young ladies in that cohort, who was about 25, said she was on the fence about leaving Memphis because she didn't see hope and promise. But after learning about this program, saying maybe it could change my mind, but then after the people she's already met and the things that she learned about her city from Wayne Dowdy, who's our historian at the Memphis Public Library, in session 1, and then just having access to your leadership team. And folks from other parts of the country who are now in Memphis, newly transplanted here, who are also in the cohort, just keep talking about how they can't believe that this program exists and that the mayor would support having people on his team come and be directly accessible to the citizens and ask questions and then ask them, and this is what makes your administration so unique, and I'm still a fan after I voted, because he also said, I don't just want to answer your questions, I want your suggestions. And took it down and has taken action already, and it's just 2 days later. He's already followed up. That's special.
Special. Now, I think we have a special team. I mean, we have some great public servants here, and the program that you are leading is in alignment with our vision for our city. We want people to be more informed about what happens in government. We want them to be more engaged. I mentioned criticism. We take the criticism and support because it just makes us better. We started this thing called the One Memphis Tour, where we are going all across the city. We've done I couldn't even call out all the neighborhoods. I think we did about 7 or 8 of them last year, which included college campuses. And when we go on the tour, there is no script.
Wow.
There is no rehearsed message from me. It's just, give me your questions, your feedback, your suggestions. We answer the questions cold. I don't pre-screen them. We sometimes screen them just to make sure the time, and that's somebody on the staff that's making sure there's not a whole bunch of duplicate questions, but it's an opportunity for people to feel connected. We're a city where it's very relational. And people want to feel the connection to you. And once they feel the connection to you, they can trust you a little bit more, because I can look you in the eyes and see if you really mean what you're saying. And once they feel that, then we can start really working on solving some problems. But you got to overcome the trust barrier. And it's not something that we're doing for re-election. Like, this is something that's going to continue throughout this administration. We want your program to continue, because those are the opportunities for people to really be able to tap in.
One of the things for your campaign is that this is our city, right? These are our problems, and we are going to have to solve them together. I always hear you talk about we have to be a part of the solution. And so, since we like to end with momentum, for those watching today who want to be a part of building a better city, what's one simple but powerful action that they can take right now?
Post something positive about our city on social media. You know, social media can be an interesting place. And it's literally like it's a real place.
I know.
It's a virtual place. And on social media, I think sometimes it thrives off the negativity. The algorithm thrives off the negativity, the debates, and oftentimes the good is lost. And I really feel like each of us have a responsibility to be ambassadors for our city. It's not enough for the mayor to talk good about the city. We need individuals who already have relationships in all corners of this community to be carrying the same message, because sometimes we can be our own worst detractors. And we want to make sure that we are changing that energy for Memphis and bringing more positivity and positive vibes. I believe in self-fulfilling prophecies. And if all we speak is negative, that's what we're going to fulfill.
Yeah.
And if all we speak is positive, that's what we're going to fulfill. And so I don't want us to be, it's not being blind. We discuss problems on social media too, but we have to be the ambassadors of light for our city, even when we're having those discussions.
Ambassadors of light for our city. I love that. Well, it wouldn't be a complete interview if we didn't ask you, because we believe in wellness as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So you have a big job, lots of big problems to solve, and lots of people want to be the people you're listening to. How do you maintain balance and keep your own self healthy? And how are you living wellness as a lifestyle?
Well, I make sure I get my walk in the morning.
Okay.
Every morning, that's the time when I'm just by myself and get to clear my head. Then I make sure we drop off my kids every morning to school. So keep that relationship. I try to make sure I wrap up my evenings relatively at a reasonable hour, 7:30, getting back to the house to still have dinner with the family. And then I tell people, they always think I'm stressed. I'm like, I'm not stressed, because I firmly believe in every decision that I make. I listen to every side of the argument, and I make the decision that I believe is best in that moment. And so I sleep good at night. I feel like God got this, and I leave it in His hand, and I stay prayed up. And I got a lot of people praying for me, and I feel it. I feel the peace as a result.
Well, listen, we are so proud to have you be the mayor of Memphis, and I'm excited about all the work that you're doing.
I'm humbled. I have I'm celebrating a birthday on Monday.
Happy birthday to
Happy
you.
birthday.
Yes, turn up.
And so 48 years ago, I was born into the most impoverished zip code in this community, 3126. So by all statistics, I should not be here. And that's evidence of Memphis's elevation. So not only is this city, you have 75% cost of living against the national average, it's also a city that if you show up and take your learned experiences and at some point pivot such that giving in the community and giving back becomes a part of your purpose, you can elevate. Not only can you elevate economically through the opportunities for education and access and exposure, you can also elevate in spaces like this to have influence. So I know my grandparents would be tremendously excited that a couple days away from my 48th birthday, we're having this conversation considering where we started. So thank you for that gift to me.
I would just say it's an honor to be with both of you all. I know both of y'all personally, and y'all are both rock stars in your own right. So keep going and keep shining, because you all are putting on for our city.
Thank you. We put on for our
Putting on
city.
for the city.
Elevation.
We're cool kids.
Hashtag elevation.
Mayor Young, this conversation has been full of insight and energy. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. We'll be watching and supporting the momentum. We'll see you next time on Masters of Momentum.